Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how you doing today?
Good. A little sore. A little sore.
Just played your finale, eh? In your what'd you say, level 8?
I think it's level tier 8, beer league hockey,
Mm-hmm.
NCHL, it's called non-contact hockey league. And yeah, it was a 3-game series. We played our final of 3 games, and we lost to the Hot Puckers, 1-0 in the final. And I've played defense all year, Bruce. I played my first game at center because we were short players, so I played center, and I really enjoyed it. It was
Mm-hmm.
fun. Defense is a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of pressure on defense. You make a mistake and it's in the back of the net. And center, it's a little bit more forgiving. I really like that.
But having an experience at defense uh, is helpful to a center. And I mean, there's lots of
Definitely.
defensive situations, and it's not often you see um, a defenseman become a center when they move up. They usually become a winger. The great Red Kelly, one of my heroes, is the exception. That was a Norris Trophy caliber defenseman in Detroit and won 4 cups, and then was a Frank Selke caliber center in Toronto, I would argue. And I mean, there was no Selke at that time, but he might have been in that conversation. And he won 4 cups. They're playing playing a completely different position on a different team in a different decade, two
Well,
dynasties.
there's similar positions in a lot of ways. Winning wing is kind of an energy position. You're just going, going, going. Center and defense, you got to make a lot of reads. And as a center, you are essentially like a third defenseman in the defensive zone, covering the middle of the ice. So there
Hmm.
are a lot of similarities. I'm surprised, actually, in some ways, there aren't more defensemen who have moved to center. And maybe, I guess, center's moving to defense is harder because the backward skating is such a key element of defense. And if you don't have a lifetime doing that, it's hard to pick that up at the highest level. But, because it's interesting in European football, right? You often see the striker or the midfielder as his career goes along will move back to become a
Deeper
defender
and deeper, yeah.
deeper and deeper as his career goes along. But you don't see that in
Hmm.
hockey, I think, because of backward skating. You'd see it a lot more in hockey. You'd see more centers as defensemen, but they just can't. They just can't make those defensive skating maneuvers.
You get the rare exceptions like Mark Howe that moved back, like started
That's right.
forward and moved back.
That's
Martin
right, Bruce.
Sorley, of all people, did that. Anyway, but more often you'll see a defenseman get moved up to forward. But it's always something that's fascinated me since the days of Red Kelly and Doug Mones and Jimmy Roberts. You know that
Yeah,
kind of
Jimmy
did both,
Roberts.
and they were kind of fascinating players, and
That's when
they're
they had
pretty
one
pretty
fewer
rare
player.
nowadays.
They had one fewer player on the team, right? Position player. Like they
Two
moved
fewer.
from
They had
two fewer.
17 dressed. I looked at some uh, box scores from the 60s the other day for some reason. There was only 17 because, of course, only one goalie, 5 defensemen, 11 forwards.
Okay.
So
Yeah, quite a different game.
one different at
Yeah.
each position.
I wonder if hockey wouldn't be better off going to that system now. Um,
Players
Bruce,
Association wouldn't think of it, David.
I hear you. Let us talk about Game 79 of the season. The
Okay,
Oilers
have we?
lose to the Columbus Blues Jacket. It's 5-2, right?
Yeah,
My memory,
5-2.
like I watched the first 2 periods before my hockey game. So my own hockey game is much fresher in my mind than this Oilers game, I have to admit. But I'll do my best here. Um, Bruce, we'll do our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. What is your good friend? Good thing.
Well, my good thing is kind of wrapped up, I think, a little bit with what happened in this, what I would call a trap game. And that is that the Oilers have already clinched their spot in the playoffs. So this is the first game they played in a while. It didn't seem like a must win. And they didn't play it like it was a must win, and they let it get away from them. But to a certain degree, uh, I didn't expect a lot of this game, and we got um, not a lot out of it. But I don't think anybody got hurt, and I think they um, check off another. And they got to win one game of the remaining three. It would have been nice to get that out of the way today, but they just didn't have it in them in the third period.
Yeah, it was it was a mediocre hockey game, and Columbus was the better team on the night in terms of a grade A shots. They had 17 to the 16 for the Oilers, according to our preliminary count. And in terms of 5 alarm shots, the absolutely
Right.
most dangerous shots, they had 10. They doubled the Oilers. They had 10, and the Oilers had 5,
Wow.
which kind of mirrors the scoreboard. So Columbus was the better team, and the Oilers didn't have it going on today, Bruce. Um, my good thing, we're doing good things, right?
Yeah.
Is Draisaitl's goal. It's just
Okay.
it's always such a fantastic thing to see the executioner shot. To see Leon harpoon that puck at the net is one of the highlights of being an Oilers fan right now. He is such a fantastic shooter. And this particular example of the executioner shot, Bruce, was particularly lethal. He took off the head with one chop. I'll put it that way, which was a problem in the medieval times. Anyway, he put that. And Jack Michaels mentioned this. Perfect placement on his shot. It was above the goalie's pad, right off the post. That is amazing ability, and it's not luck. It is not luck. He has the best one-timer in the NHL, and usually when it's a one-timer, it's a grade A shot for other players, right? But over the year, we mark Leon's one-timers from that spot if he gets full wood on it as 5 alarm shots, because they go in. We track this, and they go in more than 33% of the time. Other players' one-timer shots don't. He is just a master of this particular thrilling art of hockey, and we're so lucky. We are so lucky to be able to see this play. The master with the puck, setting up the master, shooting the puck, and McDavid and Draisaitl. I just want to see it in the playoffs, Bruce.
Yeah, well, we're going to get that chance, David. We're in the playoffs, and
yeah,
that's why. That's still a good thing from Friday. It's my residual still good thing. That was my good thing. That goal, we didn't have any pictures yet available when I posted the player grades. So I took a screen grab of Leon's goal, just showing the deadly accuracy of that shot.
nice.
Yeah, I mean, what's not to like? And let's bear in mind that puck's probably going whizzing by there pretty good. If it had been any slower, Merzlikins would have got his glove on it. If it had been any closer to the center of the net, Merzlikins would have got his glove on it. But he rocketed it right into this, what is it? Puck. We call it a puck-sized hole. It's a little bigger than that, but he sure hammered it in there.
Indeed. All right, let's move along, Bruce, to our bad things. What would you say your bad thing was this game?
Well, honestly, I have to go with the whole third period. So why don't we do your bad thing? Because it kind of set the stage for the whole rest of it.
Well, as people who listen to this podcast know, one of my pet peeves with the Oilers over the years, for some time now, has been the defensive play of the centers, and particularly helping out in the defensive slot. And the Oilers have had all kinds of talented players come through the center ice position. But I'm going to say only until McDavid and Draisaitl came along, and they're kind of sketchy on this themselves, but there was one really good defensive center, Sean Horkoff, who really knew what he was doing and covered off the defensive slot and didn't let guys get easy looks from there. He was working with the defenseman. He was doing everything he could. And what we've seen in recent years in the playoffs is the Oilers have been burnt because their centers, their very best players, sometimes they're part of the problem. They're not the whole problem. And you get in trouble when you say, well, the Oilers lost because of McDavid and Draisaitl's defense. But you get it wrong if you don't say it was one of 6 or 7 really important things that went wrong with the team, is that their star players, including McDavid and Draisaitl, didn't get this right. It is not a natural thing to cover the defensive slot if you're a star forward or like an attacker of that magnitude. But it is the dirty work which is absolutely essential to winning in the playoffs. And in this game, it was part of the sequence of pain on the tying goal. And it wasn't the, I don't know if it was the main mistake. I mean, the puck's in the corner, and the Columbus player beats Cody Ceci, does a spin move, beats Cody Ceci, and puts it out front. So there's the first mistake. Ceci just gets beat in the corner. Now that's going to happen. The key is that these players shooting into the play, they're coming fast, I know, are covered. And Kulak and McDavid have the responsibility of covering off this player. And Connor's just not to be seen there. He's missing in action. And Kulak doesn't make the play either. So, again, right. Connor McDavid has, I'd say in the last 20 games, he's been gradually improving throughout his career in terms of his defensive responsibilities. And I would say in his last 20 games or so, in the Woodcroft era especially, he's really applied himself, and he's done an exemplary job. And he got beat here tonight on that play, as did Kulak, as did Ceci, as did Zach Kassian, who the goal scorer in the end went right past Zach Kassian as well. So there's a number of players, but this is it's my pet peeve, so I focus on it, I guess.
Well, given how you played checking line center today, Guy Carbonneau, were you in that game?
Yeah, I was.
You had to be particularly sensitive to that, and I had already, without hearing the results of your game, I had already remarked on it in the player grades. That, it was the defensemen got outnumbered around the net because the forwards didn't do their job.
Yeah, and to win in the playoffs, if this team is going to win, this team isn't the 1980 Edmonton Oilers. They can't win like that. They're going to have to win like teams win now. There's not that big of a margin between the teams. There just isn't. It's going to come down to one goal in many games in the playoffs. And if Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins want to win, they've got to commit themselves to covering off the defensive slot like they never have before in their careers. And I fully expect that we're going to see that. I think we're going to see that kind of commitment. So I don't feel like I'm setting them up here to fail. I fully expect them to succeed because they have been. They've been, all three of them actually have been doing it a lot better, but not this game. Leon had some struggles too on defense. And, that's why you lose. That's why you lose to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Well, we're missing quite a few key players, I might add, but the ones that they had showed up to play. This was a big game for them.
Yeah.
They want to end the season with a good feeling and beating McDavid, Draisaitl, and the boys. After the Oilers had kicked their butts pretty good, like the last 5 games in a row were like 3+ goal wins by the Oilers. So Columbus had to be hurting. They were hungrier in this game.
What is your bad thing, Bruce? Well, you got the rest of the period.
Yeah, kind of the rest of the third period. I don't want to go on and on about it because in some ways the less said about this game, better. But that happened where with a 2-1 lead, you have your forwards sort of not thinking about defense early in the third period. That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
And so that ties the game. The Oilers had some good chances in the sort of middle part of the third. And then they took a too many men on the ice penalty, which on TV you couldn't see it, but there was an extra guy who was just starting to jump over the boards. That was acknowledged by Jay Woodcroft that 4 guys came off and 5 went on, and the one guy behind the net with the puck was the 6th guy, and they had to call it because it was a long,
CBJ also had 6 guys on the.
Yeah, I think they were changing. Like the Oilers actually had one extra guy came out apparently. And
all right.
So we don't know who that player was, and I would have docked him, -1.
You couldn't figure out from the video who it.
No, because he was just starting to step over the boards, and the camera was way down in the end zone, showing the whole thing, so there was really no detail. I suppose if you froze it, but I don't know. I mean, the reporter's not being in the building anymore. You're probably never going to find out. It's just going to be a secret.
The fiery eye of Sauron misses things now and then, but
yeah, Louis DeBrusque was going off about it, but I was wondering if that one extra guy seemed to be starting to move, and I thought, well, who's coming off for him? And then they froze the frame there rather than just let it run, and so it was hard to tell. But I mean, 2-2 tie with 10 minutes left in the third period. You got total control of the puck behind your own net, and you're making a line change, and you can't go 1 for 1. I mean, So I just thought the team kind of lost focus, and the those were part of the same thing. Then, of course, they did give up the power play goal after 25 kills in a row. That was the one that they couldn't kill.
That was a
Was
tough
the
one.
too many men that, the game-winning goal, as it turned out. And then the last 10 minutes, the forwards never got one shot on net. The last forward with a shot was Yamamoto with 10 minutes to go in the third. Otherwise, I got some outside kind of shots from D-men, and they just couldn't generate anything. They gave up a 2-on-1 for the 4-2, and then the empty net goal was a brutal giveaway after a minute of total bumbling of not even being able to puck in the zone and keep it there. And Columbus iced the puck at least twice. There was another face-off in the neutral zone where this is where the goal came from, where Bouchard passed it right to Bjorkstrand. And so it seemed like they were doing okay. And I thought, I said to you guys this morning, I wasn't expecting much out of this game in the DMs. And they actually, I thought, were pretty good through 40, but that third period was...
I went to sleep. Yes, I was raving to my wife about Cody Cece's positional play. My wife plays on my beer league team. We were on the same line today. She was actually my winger, and I was the center.
Oh, right.
Anyway,
Wow.
yeah, that was a lot of fun.
They both got moved up.
She's been set, forward all year. She got moved up.
Oh, okay.
We were defense partners in the past, but we were promoted. So
Looks like Red Kelly and Doug Moen's on the same line.
you got it, Bruce. Both those guys had comb overs, I think. I've just got the old. Okay. Cody Cece on what was it? Are we looking at the fourth goal? Yeah, man. I was raving to my wife about Cody Cece's positional play this year. That he's just always making great reads and in the right play. Like he's not. You called him lumbering in his skating, and I think that's a fair comment. Like he's not the smoothest skater out there. He's not a slick skater. He's not even close to Scott Niedermayer. He's like half of that. He is a bit lumbering. I think that's fair now that I think of it.
Lumbering defensemen can be good things.
They can be good things,
and when there's have to be twinkle toes on skates.
This was situational. They need a goal, right? So he's trying to get a goal. This is 3 minutes left in the game. They need a goal. So that partly explains the bad pinch, but man, that was one bad pinch by Cody Cece on that fourth goal. He just was not even close. And the 2-on-1 happens because of that. As much, Nuge lost the battle on the boards as well. But yeah, Cody did not come close on that one. Again, his job might have been in that moment to gamble. Even if the gamble's only a 30-70 gamble as opposed to a 70-30 gamble,
Down by a goal with 3 minutes left
Yeah.
is when you start to pinch and take extra chances because, even if you're more likely to give up the goal against, the worst result is if nobody scores for the whole rest of the game. You got to try and make stuff happen when you're trailing. And he tried and got beat, and then Yamamoto was a high forward, but not high enough, and frankly not fast enough. He had no chance in that foot race up the ice on the 2-on-1. Whereas early in the game, we'd seen Draisaitl, and I think it was this game McDavid, turn a 2-on-1 into a 2-on-2 just by hauling ass on the defensive back check. And Yamamoto just doesn't have the speed to do that. And I think he, too, was maybe to be the F1. He was a little deeper in the zone to start with, and he just couldn't catch. Was it 96, wasn't it?
I honestly don't think Yamamoto realized he was F1 until it was too late. Like, it was a very tough play. Like, the pinch comes, and it's like kind of unexpected. Nuge has the puck, then the puck's lost. Quick pinch, and it's like, oh, I better get back. A tough play.
Here's a question for you, David. When was the last time that we nabbed somebody in the scoring chances for a bad pinch? It's been a while, eh?
Yeah.
They're a lot less common than they used to be.
Oh my goodness, Bruce. Yeah, they were a recurring. Tyson Berry This has been since he's cut them out generally. Like he might make the odd one, but
Hmm.
since he's cut down, um, that's been a big factor. I think Nurse has made a few actually,
Hmm.
maybe, but it used to be much bigger feature, and I can probably get you the answer. I'll get the answer to your question here.
Okay.
Um, but
Well, my answer to that answer is Jay Woodcroft and maybe Dave
yeah,
Manson, and that the high forward is usually in position and prepared and ready to cover for that pinching defenseman.
yeah.
And you don't see many 2-on-1s, even when that guy gets beat. It's you got a second guy back, and I think
All right,
they're
there's
way more diligent to that task.
uh, looks like there's been 65 all season,
Hmm.
and 65 bad pinches. That's quite a few. I'd have to compare it to last season.
Almost won a game.
Oh no, no, this isn't correct because
Okay.
I can't give you the numbers right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to, but it might be worth a post
Hmm.
because I agree with you. It's one of the facets of the Oilers game that has changed, and thank goodness it's changed
It's
because that
certainly
was
not
killing
that
them.
it's certainly not that the D-men are less aggressive pinching. They're going deep. They're going into the hash marks, sometimes right in almost to the icing line uh, on the pinch, because they're confident that someone's got their back. And you see it. When they do go up, there's almost always there's some forward rotating into position, and often the puck goes back to that forward if the defenseman even saws off the pinch. The forward's in good puck support. He's in a great spot.
Okay, so there's been 24 all year,
Hmm.
24 bad pinches leading to grade A shots against.
Hmm.
Okay,
Right?
the last one was game 65 against the
Yeah.
Calgary Flames, and
I thought
it
like
was
ages
against
ago.
Cece who did it. It was again Cody Cece, and he actually did. Okay, that's yeah,
That was the 9-5 loss.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
since then, they went 12 games, went 10-1-1, and got into the playoffs without one bad pinch, resulting in a scoring chance against grade A scoring chance.
yeah. I think what
Nice.
game did Woodcroft take over? Game 40,
45 was his first.
game 45.
Hmm.
So there was in how many games does he coach now?
This was 79, so this would be 35 games for Woodcroft.
So in the 35 games under Woodcroft, there's been 6 bad pinches leading to grade A chances against,
And then there was
and in the
20 for the 44 games at Tippett.
18. So
18?
there's 24
Oh,
in total.
24 in
24 in
total.
total. 6 and 44. Yeah. So considerably more, like
Not quite
way
triple
more.
the rate, but tending
Yeah.
in that direction.
Yeah. Exactly. That's really significant because you make a bad pinch and it leads almost invariably to a 2-on-1 or an odd man rush and often a goal against. So I'm going to probably do a post on this. This is an interesting thing to look at because
I was going to
that's
ask you this question before this game, and then of course I wound up grading that bad pinch, but you had to call it. And and I was thinking, geez, I can't remember the last time that I saw this code.
yeah,
So
good stuff. I'm glad because that was a
yeah,
nightmare.
no, it was a big problem. They turn over the puck in the offensive zone, it'd be a frickin' 2-on-1. The
Yeah.
defenseman wouldn't cut out the pass, but he'd slam it in the net. It happened way too often, way too often.
In the last days of Dave Tippett, I mean, it was just
Well,
endemic. Is that the right word? Pandemic, whatever. Lots. It was lots, Bruce. Okay.
I
Number.
would say throughout most of the salary cap era.
Oh, jeez. For the Oilers, the decade of darkness plus. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. What's your number?
I'm going to go with 118, and that is the magic number for Connor McDavid's new career high with 2 assists this afternoon, 2 primary assists, 2 really nice passes. One to Evander Kane, one to Leon Draisaitl. You pass the puck to the right guys, you're going to get assists. And McDavid gets a lot of them. And so now he's established a new career high. He's 4 points up on Jonathan Huberdeau for uh, the scoring lead, and this is an exciting race that's going to go down to the wire with all the guys that are in the race seemingly hot, except
Yeah,
Austin Matthews. But
except Austin Matthews. The
he got
Austin
hurt.
Matthews for um, most valuable god of the hockey universe has died down a little bit. Bruce, he hasn't scored in a while. He's got 58 goals. He's been stuck there for a while. 102 points for Matthews, and my number is 55. Every
Mm-hmm.
time Leon Draisaitl scores, he sets a new high for himself, and now he's up to 55 with his executioner shot today. So he's only 3 back of Matthews. Now Matthews has played fewer games due to injury, but that's hockey, right? If you don't play the games, you can't score the goals. So we'll see
Leon missed the
if
game too.
Leon missed the game as well, and we'll see if Leon can somehow get hot and in these final 2 games surpass Austin Matthews. I would love that. I think it's unlikely, but it's not impossible, Bruce. It is not. Do they have 3 games left?
They have 3 games left.
3 games. Okay, goal a game.
And it's possible that they don't address everybody for the last game, but I would think if McDavid's going after the Art Ross and Draisaitl's going after the Rocket Richard, that they wouldn't take kindly to being sat out unless there was a legit physical reason.
Yeah, I think if Connor gets if he wins the Art Ross and he's quite a bit ahead. I don't know who the contenders are. There's so many. It seems like there's a number of good contenders for the Hart Trophy for the NHL's MVP. But the Matthews talk has died down because Austin Matthews has been. Now, if he gets 60 goals, that might change things for him. But I think McDavid has a good shot at the Hart Trophy, and I think he would be a deserving candidate this year. I think he, in the end, has been the Oilers' most valuable player and the best player in hockey. Most valuable player on his team, best player in hockey. I'd go with McDavid.
Yeah, it's. I think the talk has died down because Matthews missed, was it 3 games? And then he
Yeah.
came back and didn't get any points in his first game back at Florida last night. Played good.
Okay.
Didn't score.
A good player. Like these are all.
Oh
fantastic
yeah. Oh, he's
players.
fantastic.
He is.
No.
Yeah, he is. We're a little cheesed off in Edmonton because it's always Austin Matthews. But man, he is a fantastic hockey player. So
Well, I don't know. I mean, in my lifetime, what was it 12 times an Oilers won the Hart Trophy?
oh yeah.
And in my lifetime, of course, I'm relatively young, being born in 1955. There have been a grand total of 0 Toronto Maple Leafs to win the Hart Trophy. The last one occurred when I was in the womb. Ted Teeter Kennedy won the 1955 Hart Trophy. So I don't get the jealousy. Like I get Toronto being jealous of Edmonton, but they can have Austin Matthews. He's a great player. He's fun to watch.
Ted
Easy to
Kennedy.
cheer against.
Ted Kennedy, who I never saw play. There's a project. There was a hockey project recently, or a few years ago, where they went through and they awarded Conn Smythe trophies in the past retroactively. And when you do that, and you include, if you're looking for Hart Trophy voting, how players did in Hart Trophy voting and in Conn Smythe voting, including these retroactive Conn Smythe trophies. So the MVP of the playoffs, MVP of the regular season, and you award career points based on that. Ted Kennedy ends up, I think, 10th overall in the NHL all time in terms of, because he won a couple retroactive Conn Smythe trophies, and he was a hell of a, like, I don't know anything about him. He wasn't much of a scorer. Like, he was not. Well, he was a very good scorer, but he was
the leader.
Yeah,
He was
some about him that people watching hockey at that time thought this is the best player, two-way hockey player for a period of time in the NHL, and he's one of the NHL's all-time greats. And I think probably it's funny coming out of Toronto to say this. I think he may be the most underrated hockey player in NHL history because most people have never heard of Ted Kennedy.
Well, even that MVP was kind of odd. He won it sort of as a career lifetime achievement award because he was announcing that he was retiring at the end of that season, and the reporters thought, well, he deserves to get a trophy before he retires. Let's vote him in on. No, that's maybe a quick and dirty version of the story, but he certainly didn't earn it based on his performance in that season. But he'd been a great player over his whole career. Yeah, it was really a strange thing. I haven't read the story for a while, but it was.
Well, he retired for a year and then came back and
then
played
he came back
season.
after all this hoopla.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. So he finished second in Hart voting one year, fifth, and first. Yeah. So, and you're right. In his last year in hockey, he
got 10 goals,
52 points in 70 games, and yet he won the Hart Trophy. So, I'm not going to take that away from him. Like, there was something about this player at that time. You know, there was only so many people voting in Toronto, right? This isn't. So there was something about him that people thought was pretty special as a hockey player, and particularly in the playoffs. I think he was one of these guys who repeatedly came up big.
Well, Syl Apps and Max Bentley were the three centers who were so good in 1947-48 that Dick Beddoes thought that Wayne Gretzky wouldn't have been able to play center on that team because those three were so great, and they really were great. That's like probably one of the very greatest trios of centers.
Well, in 9 playoff games, Ted Kennedy had 8 goals and 14 points. So that's Gretzky-like numbers there. That's pretty darn good. He won 5 Stanley Cups, and he retired. As we say, he retired at age. His last
29
year was
29 the first time, yeah.
29 the first time, and then he came back and played one more year half a year as a 31-year-old.
So. He was 19 when he won that first cup, 1945. It was just before the end of World War II. And a whole lot of top NHL players were overseas. And the whole league was in a jumble. That was the year Maurice Richard got 50 and 50. I mean, there was a real sort of disparity in competition.
Yeah.
And Ted Kennedy came in and wowed him and really led Toronto. As a 19-year-old, he scored 29 goals that year. And then in the playoffs, 7 goals, led the league, 7 goals in the playoffs as a teenager. And he had a bad year after the war, and Conn Smythe, who had been off in Europe in the war, he was a fighting man, Conn Smythe. He didn't like him at first, but he grew to like him, and they won 3 cups in a row, and then they won an extra one in 1951, the Bill Barilko Cup. So they had a wonderful history throughout that time, which I used to read Leaf books. I was a Leaf fan as a kid, so I know that history.
Conn Smythe, that's a famous name. I'm just listening to the Moby Dick audiobook.
Trophy named after him.
Conn Smythe, indeed. I'm listening to the Moby Dick audiobook, and of course, in this book, there's this incredible portrayal of Captain Ahab, this madman who's obsessed with killing the whale. And when I hear some of these old hockey coach names and some of the stories around them, I always wonder, like, there should be a Captain Ahab award in the NHL for the maddest coach each season. Now, they're not like that anymore. You know, it was much more of a type in the past, you know, these guys who were just obsessed and nasty. Probably Eddie Shore is the best version of that kind of coach and manager. Was Eddie Shore, there's all kinds of famous stories about him, like tying the goalie to the posts. And although I just heard a story today.
As a player, as a coach, and as a manager, there's all kinds of stories about Eddie Shore.
I just heard a story about
Ty Cobb of hockey, Eddie Shore.
Yeah, sharpened his spikes. I just heard a story about it was Jerry Johansson was on Elliot Friedman's pod and Jeff Mark's podcast talking about how something about Bill LaForge killing a live chicken in front of his team, ripping it apart. That's the gist of it that I got. I don't know. Maybe that's not the story.
That's where Alice
Jerry Johansson didn't seem to want to get into the details too much of that. There are some crazy coaches.
Yeah.
The Ahab Award, Bruce. All right. You've got your game grades posted?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I didn't rip anybody too bad because I don't think they deserve to be ripped at this point. This ended
Yeah.
a 4-game winning streak under uh, Jay Woodcroft. They played 35 games. They've had 2 5-game winning streaks, a 6-game winning streak, and now a 4-game winning streak. That's a pretty
And
nice
when are they playing?
set of streaks. You're not going to win them all. So they didn't win this one.
Indeed. When do they play next? Is it Tuesday?
Tuesday at Pittsburgh.
All right. Well, Bruce, thanks for talking tonight.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.